Shalom, Israel. Okay, I just want to finish up verse 6 in the book of Shemot, the 21st chapter. It says, again, then his master shall bring him unto the door, and he shall also bring, then his master shall bring him unto the judges, and he shall also bring him to the door, and the door is referencing YAHUSHUA, or into the doorpost, and the doorpost is making reference also to YAHUSHUA, as we had talked about in the book of Shemot, the 12th chapter. What was it? The book of Shemot, the 12th chapter, the 7th verse, where we see where the nation of Israel was asked to put the blood on the two side posts and on the upper doorposts of the house where they should eat it, which is the Passover. Now, the blood is very, very important. We have to make sure that we understand that, because again, this is something very, very important that's happening in verse 6. And his master shall bring him unto the judges, he shall also bring him to the door or unto the doorpost. And his master shall bore his ear through with an anvil, and he shall serve him forever. And so that's the type of mindset that we're supposed to be under now. We're supposed to want to serve YAHUSHUA and the Father and the Son forever. That's the meaning behind the covenant of the relationship, all right, the marriage. We're supposed to want to serve the Father and the Son forever. And so again, when you take the ear, all right, and you nail it to the doorpost of the house, the blood trickles down upon the doorpost, all right, and you're now in covenant relationship with the people that's in the house. And this is done is because you want to be in covenant relationship again with the people that's in the house forever. And the door is very, very important, because at the door is where covenants are made. Now, let's go to some more scriptures on showing the importance of the door. We're going to go to the book of Yochanan, the 10th chapter. We're going to be reading, we're going to start with verse 1. As it says, now, verily, verily, I say unto you, he that entereth not by the door into the sheepfold, but cometh up some other way, the same is a thief and a robber. Now, what I found very important with verse 1 is that we see the word he that entereth not. The word not is very, very important. He that entereth not by the door is referencing YAHUSHUA, the Messiah. So if this person isn't entering into the by the door into the sheepfold, but climbeth up some other way, the scripture clearly explains to us that the same is called a thief and a robber. So the only way that we can come into covenant relationship with the Father and the Son, we must acknowledge the Son. We must come through by the door. The door is very, very important. That's the reason why the title of this show is called Covenant of the Threshold. Because when you cross before you cross the, you go through the door, you got to cross the threshold. And the threshold and the door are one, making reference to the Messiah. There's no other way around it. If you try to go any other way, the scripture clearly tells us that you're called a thief and a robber. And we have to also understand now what's on the door. The blood of YAHUSHUA. And the scriptures clearly tells us that we're not supposed to trample over the blood of YAHUSHUA. And how do you trample over the blood of YAHUSHUA? It's by breaking the laws, statutes, and commandments that must be understood. If you come any of the way, you're called a thief and a robber. That's the reason why I brought out in the book of Shemot, the 21st chapter, 1 through 6, where it clearly tells us that the Hebrew servant wants to be in covenant relationship with the Father and the Son forever. Forever. That's the responsibility of being in a marriage. Forever. Verse 2, but he that entered in by the door is the shepherd of the sheep. Again, verse 2 is very important, because just like in verse 1, I wanted to put special emphasis on the word not. In verse 2, I want to put special emphasis where it says, but he that entereth in by the door, again is making reference to the Messiah, Yahushua. We can't go wrong with these scriptures here. But he that entereth in by the door is the shepherd of the sheep. To him the porter opened. And that's what we want to have happen. We want the Messiah to open the door to us. But the Messiah will not open the door if you come through the back door. You can't come through the back door. You can't come through the windows. You can't put a ladder to the to the house and come up by the second floor and break down the roof and things like that, because the scriptures clearly tells us that that person is called a thief and a robber. We have to come full front center, crossing the threshold by the front door, which is Yahushua. Any other way is called a thief and a robber. To him the porter opened, and we want the Messiah to open the door to us. And the sheep hear his voice, and he calleth his own sheep by name, and he leadeth them out. So again, what do we want to have happen here? Yahushua is the light. And what's happening here in verse 3, and where it says, and leadeth them out, he's leading us out of darkness. The only way for us to come out of darkness is to come through the front door, crossing the threshold, and the Messiah is the light. So he's calling those out of darkness into his glorious light, or his marvelous light. All right? Yahushua is calling us into his marvelous light. He's calling us out, as it says in verse 3. I'm reading it again. To him the porter openeth, and the sheep hear his voice, and he calleth his own sheep by name, and leadeth them out. He's leading them out of what? He's leading us out of darkness again into his marvelous light. Verse 4. And when he putteth forth his own sheep, he goeth before them, and the sheep follow him, for they know his voice. Verse 4 is also very important. And what I want to put special emphasis on is that it says, he goeth before them. The groom goes before the bride. That's the chain of command. Just like it explains to us in the book of Corinthians, 11th chapter, 1 through 4, where we given the chain of command. The Father goes before the Son goes before the man, and the man goes before the woman. That's the chain of command. There's no other way of getting around it. I know a lot of people have their own personal feelings, and I don't want to walk behind you. I want to be beside you. Listen, two people can't occupy the same space. It can't happen. There's a chain of command. There's the Father, there's the Son, there's the man, and there's the woman. Two people can't occupy the same space. There's too many personal feelings being twisted in with the scriptures. And we can't have that. That's the reason why there's so much confusion that's going on when people read the scriptures. They have a list already of the do's and don'ts, what they're going to do and what they're not going to do, before they even start reading the scriptures. Okay, and I don't want to go off on a tangent with that, but remember, there's a chain of command with this whole thing here. And the scriptures clearly tells us in verse 4, he goeth before the bride. The groom goes before the bride. The groom brings the bride over the threshold into covenant relationship with him. All right? Simple as that. And the sheep follow him, for the sheep know his voice. The sheep, the groom is going to say, follow the Torah, follow the Torah, keep my commandments, keep my commandments. If you love me, keep my commandments, keep my commandments. That's the voice of the groom. Verse 5. And a stranger will they not follow, but will flee from him, for they know not the voice of the strangers. Because what the stranger is going to do? The stranger is going to say that, listen, you know what? The nation of Israel no longer exists today. The biological seed doesn't exist today. The stranger's going to say, listen, you know what? Forget about the Sabbath, all right? It's all about Sunday now. The strangers are going to say that the dietary laws are no longer in effect. You can eat whatever it is that you want to eat as long as you pray over it. This is the voice of a stranger. And the scripture clearly says, and a stranger they will not follow. Okay, because the groom is going to tell you that the laws, statutes, and commandments are still in existence. This is very important what I'm about to say here. The biological seed, all right, still exists. Verse 5 again, but will flee from him, for they know not the voice of strangers. The bride would not follow a stranger. Verse 6. This parable spoke Yahushua unto them, which is this Talmudim, but they understood not what things they were which Yahushua spoke unto them. They didn't understand the parable. This is the reason why I say there's the literal meaning of the scripture, and then there's what we have the side level, or the mystery understanding of the scripture. And this is what we need to be able to understand, that there's a message behind the message. So now we're going to have Yahushua now break down this parable. Then said, I'm in the 7th verse here. Then said Yahushua unto the Talmudim, again, verily, verily, I say unto you, I am the door of the sheep. The sheep must go through the door, and the door is Yahushua. There's no other way to get, there's no other way to get to the door but by coming through Yahushua. Now, what's also very important too in verse 7 is the word I am. All right. What does the word I am mean? And what is this making a reference to? Let's go to the book of Shemot, the 3rd chapter, and I'm going to read verses 14 through 16. And we're talking about now, we want to get an understanding on what does this word I am means. And it has here G-O-D. And we understand, the whole thing with idolatry and everything like that, and the tetragrammaton. So this is actually read, and Yahuwah or Yahushua, and the reason why I'm saying that this is Yahushua is because the person that came into covenant relationship with the nation of Israel, the groom is Yahushua. This takes nothing away from the Father, Yahuwah. But keeping everything in order, the groom is Yahushua. All right? So, and Yahushua said unto Moshe, I am. The I am is referencing the Messiah. It says, I am that I am. Meaning, I am who I am. That's all what that says. I am who I am. Ahaya, Ashar, Ahaya. And he said, thus shalt thou say unto the children of Israel, I am. The I am again is Yahushua, as it says in the book of Yochanan, the 10th chapter, the 7th verse. Then said Yahushua unto them, again, verily, verily, because again, he's breaking down the parable now. Verily, verily, I say unto you, I am. The I am is Yahushua. Ahaya, Ashar, Ahaya, I am who I am. This is Yahushua. Back now to the book of Exodus, the 3rd chapter, the 14th verse. And Yahushua said unto Moshe, I am that I am. And he said, thus shalt thou say unto the children of Israel, Yahushua hath sent me unto you, because the I am is Yahushua. I am. Verse 15. And Yahushua said moreover unto Moshe, thus shalt thou say unto the children of Israel. It has here the word Lord. And again, we understand about paganism and everything. So the word Lord is associated with the word Baal, be spelled Baal.